Welcome, Hoosier fans, to another edition of Assembly Call Radio, where we discuss the most important topics in the world of basketball. It's our exhibition season, and so bear with us till we get the music going. But it is our 1087th episode overall of the Assembly Call, recorded on the evening of Thursday, October 16th, 2025. I am your host, Coach Sony. So let's begin like this edition of the Assembly Call, how we begin every edition of the Assembly Call, and that is with our Hoosier Proud banner moment, and it simply happened today. Coach Cignetti signs an 8-year extension for $11.6 million average compensation over the next 8 years, making him the third highest football coach in college football, keeping him at Indiana. It is absolutely our banner moment. Yes, we're a basketball podcast, but we're a back home network. We're an Indiana network. And that just brought a lot of text messages into me, Ryan, a lot of, scrolling the media, listening to the video that he put out, just put chills down my spine as an Indiana fan and a football fan. It just means a lot to have that quality of leadership staying here at Indiana. And so that is our banner moment. The second part will be the start of the basketball season, which we will get to. I promise you, all you basketball people, we will get to tomorrow's exhibition. But Ryan and I are going to talk a little bit about Cignetti's extension. So we're going to start calling the intro section Voices from the Call. And our co-host, Ryan Phillips, Andy Bottoms, Jared Morris. Tonight with me is Ryan Phillips. And Ryan, what are your thoughts about Coach Cignetti, and how important is that to Indiana football and to the athletic department and the entire university?
I mean, it's massive. I think that you've seen in the last few years this trend of guys opting to stay instead of go, especially a guy like Cignetti, who's an older guy and probably has about 8 to 10 years left, max. I think that, a lot of people connected him to the Penn State job because he's from Pennsylvania. It's certainly a bigger job. Whatever you think of where the programs are at right now, that is a higher tier job because of the infrastructure around the program, all that. Now, Indiana may get there, but right now, that's one of those elite destination jobs. And he said no. And he said, this is where I want to be. And I think that for Indiana, it does two things. One, it elevates your program, because a guy has a chance to leave Indiana in the past, he'd take the first train out of town to a better job. Now he's pointing to Indiana and saying, this is a destination. And that works in Indiana's favor, not just with Curt Cignetti, but in the future because of what he's going to build here. And I think that that's huge. Just the message it sends nationally that you were able to put the money together to keep him and retain him and lock him up and have him say, hey, I want to retire here. It's not like we're signing a contract extension. We'll see in a couple of years. He wants to retire at Indiana. I think he's a guy who wants the field named after him, wants a statue out front, all of that. And I also think as far as Penn State was concerned, or a place like Florida, there's a lot of cooks in those kitchens who are going to look over his shoulder and tell him how to run his program. At Indiana, he's kind of allowed to do it how he wants to do it because he's turned it around and has it at a level that it's never been at before so quickly. Everyone's just kind of like, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. You don't have to abide by anybody else's rules but your own, other than not breaking any rules, essentially. The second thing it does for Indiana is continuity and allows this to continue and allows this to build. And by doing this now, you not only continue your recruiting continuity, but on top of that, there's no trepidation by people who are looking, well, is he going to go? Is he going to stay? Who am I committing to? So I think that's huge and also allows you to continue this momentum that you've built up over the last year and a half. And, sending the message and locking a guy up after the biggest win, arguably probably the biggest road win in program history, maybe the biggest win in program history, quite frankly, is enormous. And it's just a great day for Indiana. I don't think it was unexpected that he's staying. I think the announcement today specifically was unexpected. But if you've heard anything about Curt Cignetti, Indiana's the school that gave him his big step, and he was not going to walk away anytime soon, I don't think. If you know anything about him, and also he wasn't going to go somewhere where he'd have to deal with other people and their hands in his program.
If he really wanted to stay, this is an opportune time to get it done and to shut down all the conversations, because all of the media are going to be talking about it leading up to the game, then the post game and all of that stuff. The national narrative is going to be, is he going to leave? Is he going to leave? And so if he really wanted to stay, which he did, obviously, getting it signed right away, and then being able to make a statement that resonated with a lot of us, I think was really an important step, because he doesn't want distractions. And then kudos to Scott Dolson for seeing what needs to be happening and getting it done right away and just shutting it down before it could linger over and over and over and over again. So I think the timing was great, and I think just a thanks to Coach Cignetti for wanting to stay and build. But what you said too is he's got all the capital in the world right now, as opposed to going to someplace else. And yeah, he could probably rebuild it too, but he can do just about anything here in Bloomington right now. Yeah. So just a great day.
One thing to add to that, and I agree with what you said, I have to credit the athletic department for the way they've been acting over the last really few years. You landed Curt Cignetti, and you made that bold move. And then you not only signed him to one extension, you've signed him to a second extension now. You went out and got Darian DeVries, who's a guy who plays the way Indiana fans want their teams to play. You've got a bunch of other coaches and programs being successful right now. This is the best time to be an Indiana University sports fan right now. And so I think I want everybody to know, enjoy this, because there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be whatever along the road over the years. But right now, having a top 3 football team, a new basketball coach who's re-injected life into the program, you've got a great soccer program, great volleyball program. You've got all of these things going right now. Enjoy it and take advantage of it. Watch as much as you can.
And joining us on the road, I believe, is Galen Clavio. You have to be absolutely thrilled that this went down. Thanks, first of all, for joining us tonight on a really special night with Coach Cignetti's signing. We just ask you to be very careful this time while driving on the podcast.
Yeah, I'm just here to not get arrested, right, guys?
Exactly.
No.
It has happened.
Well, I didn't get arrested. I just got a ticket. But yes, the greatest moment in Assembly Call history of the 2020s, right? But
exactly.
No, we're driving back.
You didn't really have a lot to beat there, by the way. So
fair point. No, driving back from the Monon Spike game up at Gainbridge, a great atmosphere up there. Unfortunately, the IU ladies fell a bit short, but great game. It was competitive throughout. But no, what a day for IU athletics and for IU football. It's remarkable what a turn of events. I saw a tweet from somebody earlier 2 years ago this weekend. Indiana lost at home to Rutgers in football en route to a 3-9 season. And it really felt like all the hope that had been there in 2019 and 2020 had evaporated. We felt like we were back at rock bottom. It is almost inconceivable that we are where we are with the third highest paid coach in all of college football, a guy who wants to be in Bloomington, a guy who wants to create and sustain a legacy. I don't know what's more exciting, that IU has this high quality of a head coach who's chosen this as the place he wants to be, or that IU is a financial player at this level in football, guys. It's just remarkable.
It really is, Galen. I have one thing. Sorry to jump in, Coach. I want to ask you, does this, you're and not only a fan and an alum and all that, but you're a bit of an IU sports historian. Can you compare this time of being an IU fan to any other time with so much going on? This football program, obviously this is unprecedented, but just across the board, there's so much good happening in the athletic department. And I went to IU starting in 2003. There's never been anything like this while I've been associated with the university, certainly.
No, absolutely. No, the only time I can think of where everything was clicking like this was probably that run from like 86 to 93 when the Bill Mallory era really took off in football, and that felt like that was the most sustained success Indiana had ever had in football. Basketball wins a title, makes a Final Four. Men's soccer wins a national title. You had a lot of competitive sports across the board, but this feels different because you hit the nail on the head, Ryan. You've got all the sports you mentioned earlier: football, men's basketball, women's basketball, which was not that good in the late '80s, volleyball, men's soccer, baseball is all knocking on the door of the tournament every year. I mean, it is really remarkable. And I'm leaving out swimming and diving. I'm leaving out softball. There's so many sports. And this is where you give a ton of credit, not just to Scott Dolson, but also to Fred Glass, because he hired a lot of these coaches, laid a lot of the foundation. I give Scott Dolson a huge amount of credit for taking it up to the next level. I think it's important to remember when you were in school, Ryan, it felt like that was the period where IU athletics kind of hit the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
And the build that's happened since they built the North End Zone facility and Cook Hall, made the facilities improvements, started hiring coaches in a different methodology, and really tried to make the overall programs more competitive and fan experience better. I know we've had our quibbles about things, but it finally feels like IU has caught up with the rest of college sports when it felt like they'd been left behind about 20 years ago.
Yeah, for sure. I completely agree.
Galen, my question for you is the timing. Were you surprised it happened this soon? And then the second question is to be in the top three coaches, did you think Indiana would elevate that to that level? And again, the importance of that for the Indiana football program.
I'm not surprised they moved this quickly. IU athletics is run by really smart people who they're conscious of what's going on out there. I think they had this ready to go. And I think I never bought, you can go back and listen to Crimson Cast from Sunday or Football Weather, or if you listen to what Scott Dolson said on Big Red Carpet on Monday, I never bought the idea that IU didn't have the financial resources. And I never bought the idea that Curt Cignetti had his eye on going somewhere else, because you can win. It's not just, you can win at Indiana. He is winning at Indiana. He's got them on track to make a second playoff berth in a row. And there's a ton of blue bloods that are not in that spot. So I think Indiana was like, look, we want to show we're serious. We want to show that we've got the money. We're willing to step up. We want to show you exactly how important you are. I think they knew that Curt Cignetti, he feels like this is home. And we heard this last year. It wasn't just that Curt Cignetti signed a big contract extension, but it was what Indiana did after that contract extension. In conjunction with it. They increased his assistant pool to where it was second in the country behind Ohio State. And then when people came calling in the offseason for Derek Owings, for Bryant Haynes, they stepped up and they increased the salaries. They've taken all these steps to demonstrate how serious they are. And I think what we saw in the spring and summer on that front made the fact that they moved so quickly on this extension for Cignetti not a surprise at all.
Yeah, they kind of telegraphed that this would be the thing. I think, I had some people contact me and ask, he's from Pennsylvania. Penn State's a big time job. Do you think he'd be interested? I never for a second thought he would be, just because, and I mentioned this to Coach before you came on, like, he doesn't seem like a guy who wants people looking over his shoulder at his program. In Indiana, he kind of just do what he wants, as long as it's, within the framework of what's allowable. But I never thought he was that guy, and this can be his kingdom. He's not walking into somebody else's situation. So I know you didn't buy that was a thing. As far as them being a player financially, is this something that you think will permeate the entire athletic department, or are they going all in? I mean, obviously they're going to spend money on basketball and the other things, but do you think they're really pushing football at this point?
Well, I think, no, they're really pushing football. And I look at it as essentially making up for 120 prior years of not. Because I think historically, Indiana was one of those schools like Kentucky, like North Carolina, CLA, like Kansas, where you could afford to just kind of have a football program. They didn't necessarily have to be successful because what your alums and your donors
Pay it
cared
lip
about
service.
was
Yeah.
men's basketball. Yeah. And I think what happened last year was there were so many people, fans, but especially donors, and I mean like the high roller donors, who experienced success at a national level and in the Big Ten in football. And they were like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like this, I didn't know it could be like this. And I'm sure that the relative for Indiana basketball level of mediocrity that has happened over the course of the last 8 to 9 years fed into that some, because it kind of felt like, finding an oasis in the desert, if you were a big IU fan. But there's something about, and you know this, Ryan, you're a USC guy. There's something about success in college football that just, it scratches an itch that nothing else scratches if you care about college sports. And I think for a lot of people, it's opened their eyes, not just to the fandom aspects, uh, and certainly for the donors, not just the fun that goes along with it, but I think for the university, it's like, why do universities engage in college athletics? They do it for marketing. They do it for alumni engagement and outreach. They do it to get the brand out there in a way that you can't get otherwise. And football just opens so many doors that cannot be opened by other sports. It's something that you have to invest in, especially now when you're fighting for students, you're fighting for undergrads, you're fighting for recognition. And it's a great way to stand out. And it happens to be a hell of a lot of fun at the same time.
Galen, do you think this is also going to trickle down to the assistant pool, the amount of money for the assistant pool? I know that was already done once. Do you think that kind of donation and money, or where else can the next level of donations or set of money go to improve Indiana football?
I mean, look, the assistant pool is already about as big as you would expect it to be. I mean, when I said earlier that it was only behind Ohio State, I don't think people realize how huge that is. Like that's a lot of money on assistants. The thing I'll note is that we're at a point now with some of Cignetti's assistants where, as we saw with Tino Sunseri last year, they may get opportunities for higher level positions. I would not be shocked at all to see Bryant Haynes become a head coach maybe this cycle. Like that guy is that good. That guy is, I mean, he's 39 years old, I think. He's put his time in. He has put together a defense that, Aaron Taylor said over the weekend was a better front seven than Georgia and Alabama. I don't think this is in Indiana we're talking about, and not with a bunch of 5 stars. So I think that, yes, Coach, you're going to see money for assistants. I think they're going to keep that where they need it to be. They're going to want to keep their guys. Cignetti's a big loyalty guy. But I think where you could see donations starting to go next is some of the next level upgrades that the stadium needs. They got the weight room taken care of, so now football's got their own weight room. Maybe you tackle a new practice facility at some point. But I think, Memorial Stadium could use some luxury suites, because guess what? People want to come to football games, and that's what we're looking at, I think. You could see a press box upgrade. I don't know how Ryan feels about that, but I thought it was hilarious.
Now, thank you.
I thought it was hilarious. Like, I was out in Vegas for Big Ten Media Day, and Cignetti made a joke about how he was going to be a legend among the press for getting the press box upgraded before he left. And I think he was. You
know where your bread is buttered, Kirk.
He was, yeah. He knew what he was doing there. So that's where, like, a lot of it's facilities upgrades, but it's not about expanding the stadium. This is not the era for that. I mean, Oregon, yes, they've got a very rich benefactor, but Oregon Stadium isn't much bigger than Indiana. Indiana's size is great. They need more revenue generating opportunities in it. So I think that's the next step.
Yeah, one thing you mentioned, Galen, is just sort of the galvanizing effect of football is just different. And it's probably because where else can you put 50,000 people who are all on the same wavelength at one time anywhere in America, let alone, on a college campus. And I think that's why it outranks basketball as far as excitement and things like that, because of the number of people you can put there. And it really does bond people, and it creates that, next level of community at the school. And you're right, it acts as a marketing tool. And it builds on itself over time.
It's just, and it's hard. And I think for Indiana people in general, we had always had to emotionally keep football at arm's length to some degree, because oftentimes the teams just weren't good. And when we were good, there was always a kick in the nuts at the end of whenever they were good, whether it's the Pinstripe Bowl or the Gator Bowl or whatever. I mean, we all bear those scars if we followed IU football. And if you've never tasted success, then you don't know what success tastes like in football. And
very true.
Once you get a sip of it, you want a second sip, or you want an entire glass, or you want to bring the carton home with you. And I think that's really where the galvanizing effect can be helpful across the board. I mean, it was amazing being out in Eugene and the number of IU fans that were out there. And I know, there wasn't a huge amount of them, it looked like, in the stadium, but we had that really awesome red section that I was in the end zone. That was a rowdy bunch of people, and they were from all over the country. And they were all so excited to be there for IU football. And we saw those same people in the Rose Bowl. We saw those same people at Michigan State and Northwestern. We even saw them at Ohio State last year. We certainly saw them in South Bend. This is going to grow. And I think the best thing you could do if you were Indiana was make sure Curt Cignetti knew that you were going to be there and you were going to step up and rank him financially among the top coaches in the country. And I know people will be like, okay, that's a lot of money. It is, but the benefits that you get from that, both directly and indirectly, are huge. And the recruiting benefits Indiana gets now going into these last month and a half, 6 weeks, whatever, before National Signing Day. Like, nobody's going to be able to walk into a recruit's living room that IU's going after and say, well, Cignetti's just going to leave at the end of this season. Like, that's just not happening at this point.
Well, Galen, we appreciate you calling in on just a great day for Indiana and us Indiana football fans. We're glad that you haven't gotten pulled over. But the last question is a combo question. What's on the menu at your tailgate, and will there be cookies or brownies at the tailgate?
I am probably team brownies on that one, but I got to check.
Okay.
I got to check with Mrs. Crimson Cast to see what we're baking up for the tailgate. Coach, I don't know if you've looked at the forecast, but it looks like it's going to be windy at the very least. So I got to adapt something that's not going to blow away, and I haven't quite decided yet. So that's on the agenda. Once I get home, is we're going to map it out. But I'm not. What are you serving? I'm curious.
We are going to just have a taco bar. Fix your own taco, hold it.
Love it.
We've adapted your. If it's not held in your hand, we're not going to bring it. So we're just going to have a bunch of meat pre-cooked up, heated up on the stove, and then hand it out in some tortillas, and then have a good time. But the weather did break. It was supposed to rain quite a bit. Now it's down to like 20% rain. And so great tailgating weather. The gates open up at 9 o'clock. We'll be there about 8:45, 8:30 trying to bust in. And come find us. Anyone who's listening, say hi to Crimson Cast if you can find them, and let's enjoy some more winning football. But thanks, Galen, for joining us tonight. Go Hoosiers.
Thanks, guys. Go Hoosiers.
All right. Always good to have
the doctor is
the good doctor in. And what a game it was on Saturday as well. We got this coming up, though, tonight on this episode of the Assembly Call. We got some Hoosier headlines I'll run through real quick, and we'll talk about them in segment one. Then we'll do a Chalk Talk where we talk a little bit about some Media Day quotes and what it means for Indiana basketball. And then Ryan and I will kick around what we're watching for tomorrow night in the first exhibition game against Marian. Segment three, we'll answer some questions and preview that actual game a little bit and then we'll send you on your way to a good Friday and a good weekend. All of that is coming up this week on Assembly Hall. But let's talk about our presenting sponsor. The new edition of Assembly Call Radio, like all shows on the Back Home Network, is presented by our friends at Home Field Apparel, where they have the largest collection of vintage IU apparel that you'll find anywhere. And it's not just IU. Home Field has unique, interesting designs printed on the softest, most comfortable fabrics for over 150 colleges and universities, plus plenty of other brands like Little Five, IndyCar, and The Fever, and more. And they're always expanding and trying something new, including launching new schools as well as unique bundles, ideas, combo packages all the time. They sell out quickly, though, so make sure you go to their website, go get their app, and get their stuff quickly shipped to you. So you can subscribe to their texts and emails and stay up to date so you don't miss anything. Recently now, they have some of the Upstairs Pub Bison Mafia. Ordered a long sleeve shirt today. The Upstairs Pub direct messaged me. You know you're in good standing, Ryan, when the Upstairs Pub direct messages you about some gear.
I didn't get one.
Go to homefieldapparel.com. Use the promo code HOME23 to get your 15% off your entire first order. That's promo code HOME23 for 15% off. And the website is homefieldapparel.com. Wear one for the team. All right, here's some headlines. Exhibition game 1 tomorrow, 7:30 versus Marian, who is coached by former Hoosier Pat Knight. We welcome them into Assembly Hall. We played them last year. We'll go over this in segment 3, a little bit about the first exhibition game. I believe it's on Big Ten Plus. You're going to need a subscription to get that. You can tune in. We will be back tomorrow night with a post-game show talking about what we saw in the game 1. The KenPom rankings came out. Indiana is currently 40th in the KenPom. Those are just good things to look at. They really get a lot more true mid-December. So 40th, it puts Indiana right in that range of making the tournament, which is what we've thought all year is where they're probably going to be. 11th in the Big Ten. So we hope that doesn't pan out. We hope they're a little bit higher in the Big Ten.
Offensive rating, 35.
Yeah. Very good. Which is going to be fun to watch, I think. Media Day was held last week. We'll have a lot of that in segment 2. Hoops on Kirkwood was a huge success to bring the community in and introduce. And Trent Sisley hits an incredible shot from the balcony above Five Guys. I was there, but I never made it out of the Upstairs Pub. I watched it on TV and saw the behind the scenes of the coaches talking from up there. The beer was too cold, and the Cubs were on at that point. They also held a inter-squad scrimmage. They are dealing with some injuries. We'll discuss that. And as we talked about with the good doctor, football beats Oregon, number 3 in the country. Homecoming game is set for 3:30 on Saturday. That will be on Peacock, another subscription that we need to watch college sports. You want to expand a little bit more on the KenPom or any of the other stuff here that we're not going to talk about later, Ryan? What's on your mind?
I think that we've talked about it, and I don't want people to get, worried that they're outside the top 25. They may wind up outside the top 25 this year. We don't know. But at the same time, I think that these are preseason projections about a team that has never played together before in a game that mattered. And so it's very difficult for these guys to come up with how they're going to play. Guys may have put up statistics at one place and another place, and maybe they carry those stats to this level, but then they're interacting with each other. So that's going to change the way they play and all of that. So it's, placing Indiana anywhere right now, good or bad, is kind of a fool's errand. So we'll see. We'll know what this team's going to be by mid-December, I think. But starting out, it's going to be very interesting. We'll get hints here and there. We got some hints in Puerto Rico. Got some hints based on what we've been hearing. We'll get some hints from these exhibition games and then early season games as well. But, it's just impossible with the amount of transfers. They have a whole new roster. It's impossible a lot of these teams have some returning players. They brought in some players. They have some freshmen. This is a completely new roster. And so outside of the walk-ons, I think. So this is just, don't get too caught up in preseason rankings specifically for a team like this.
Yeah, I agree. I think you'll know a whole lot when Big Ten season kicks in there at the end of December, early January, of what you could expect from this
Yeah.
this team. And I think you might have some ups and downs a little bit. We're gonna talk a little bit about what we expect tomorrow here coming up. So, all right, coming up on the assembly call, we're gonna dive into a chalk talk between the shot doctor and then a formerly hired coach or fired coach or whatever. We're going to talk basketball. So stick with us here on the assembly call.
Hi, this is AJ Moye. What's the only thing better than upsetting Duke in the Sweet 16? Celebrating it with friends afterwards. Join Jared, Andy, Ryan, and Coach for the assembly call after every IU basketball game. Go Hoosiers!
Welcome back to the assembly call. I'm the coach, Brian Tonsoni. I'm here with Ryan Phillips, and we're going to start our chalk talk off by looking at some things that Coach DeVries talked about at Media Days. He also had a media availability this afternoon. If you can catch part of that on YouTube or find the transcript, I think there were some key things that were mentioned by Coach. And we've mentioned this over and over and over again, that it's going to look a lot different than the last few years, Ryan. And from Media Days, talking about three-point shooting, Coach DeVries said some players are naturally going to take more than others, but we want everyone to be a threat out there. Wilkerson shot 40% from a three-point line, and he said our offense is made to create open threes. He's going to let you play freely and let you, play within the game as long as you're taking good shots. And in the scrimmage on Friday, Indiana was 10 for 26. We've talked a lot about it. We're about to see it starting tomorrow night. But those are some good things to hear about the new offense.
Well, and you look at his history, and there've been, I think West Virginia last year, they didn't make a lot, but they did take a lot. And I think that part of that was, Tucker was out for most of the season, and that really hurt their percentage. But yeah, you already saw it in Puerto Rico. They are going to fire if they are open. And again, that was kind of a ragged, situation. They'd all kind of been thrown together, haven't been together that long. And you saw them shooting a lot, but you saw a lot of offensive movement. I think that was the biggest thing, was just seeing how much movement, and movement creates open looks. And then, from there you build. When teams start closing out too fast to those threes, that creates driving lanes, that creates opportunities, that creates extra pass opportunities as well. If you take a step in, somebody steps up, you got to move the ball. So I do think that movement is going to be the thing that gets you there. Standing around is never good on an offense. It doesn't matter what offense you're running, what your goals are. If you're standing, you're going to fail. And so the movement, I think, of his offenses, and you can watch his past offenses at Drake, West Virginia, and what we saw in Puerto Rico, they don't stop moving. And if they do, it's for a very specific reason, not just because that's what they're doing at that point. There's a reason they stop and then they move again. So, I think that we're going to see a lot of threes. Going to be night and day from the last, basically decade of Indiana basketball. On the flip side, we're going to see how that plays with things like offensive rebounding. We're going to see how that plays with paint scoring, all of that, because that is not a place where this team looks like it will be strong at this spot. They could prove us wrong, but just gaming this out, scoring in the paint is going to be a struggle at times, unless it's built off of drives. And offensive rebounding is probably going to be a struggle, I would say.
Yeah, he mentioned offensive rebounding here. It depends on the roster. If they have a certain type of roster, they'll emphasize it more. That there's some other things like defensive rebounding that he's probably going to emphasize a lot more. Interesting you said about the movement. He was quoted today, and this is paraphrased. I don't have exact quotes here, but he said he doesn't have a lot of one-on-one guys except for the point guard Tannerway. And so they're going to need movement. They're going to need cutting. They're going to need screening. And so, again, I think that's a difference than what we've seen in the past 4 years. And then talking about your scoring in the paint, he has mentioned about playing two bigs, Bailey and Alexis, one at the 4 and one at the 5. Their ability to pass, especially Bailey's availability to pass, But he said, quote, "We used it a lot in Puerto Rico, and it was pretty successful for us. They both complement each other in different ways, and they both play well within our offense and what we do," end quote.
Yeah.
That is what you were talking about, is how are they going to play inside. I do think you're absolutely right. They're going to be trying to drive and score at the rim off of penetration. But if they need something different, look for a too big lineup to be part of the action, at least early in the season.
And Bailey can definitely play with another big. I mean, he can play. He's more of a face-up guy who can start on the perimeter and all that. He's big enough that he can post up, but his game is more forward-facing, and he's an excellent passer, great ball handler. He's more of that kind of guy than the traditional big that Indiana fans have gotten used to seeing. So he could certainly play with another big. We'll see how they game that out. And again, we don't know. We'll see as this moves forward. But certainly I think a too big lineup would not be shocking.
Yeah. Another thing, Ryan, that he mentioned, he said about injuries. They've had some injuries in the summer and early in practice. They said there's going to be 2 or 3 guys that probably won't be available right at the beginning of the season. Most of the guys will be getting back closer to maybe the start of December. There is a rehab from injury and then a getting back into basketball shape after you are deemed healthy that these guys are playing with. And it's I think it's the 2 point guards.
Drake
right?
and Ristich are both
Ristich,
out. They're probably going to be out for a while too. They're not season ending, but he's talking about maybe December at the earliest.
Yep. And then Dorn is the one that is most likely to come back, probably not playing in either of the exhibitions, but hopefully will be back sooner.
Definitely out Friday. Baylor's a potential. You'll see him a little, but he's an important guy, I think. And one of the things to note with Drake and Dorn, they're both juniors. Ristich is a freshman. Those are guys you got to build with a little bit. A lot of the key players on this roster are seniors, so you have to get those younger guys some playing time because they'll be back. Theoretically, they'll be back. So you want to get them involved and have something to build off of heading into next year as well. I'm not to think too far ahead, but it's important to have not just your seniors dominating everything.
So he mentioned that the rotation is probably going to be 7 or 8, which I don't mind
for now,
early in the season for now. And then he said it's going to maybe go 8, 9, 10, depending on who comes back, what matchups and everything. Interesting to see, again, the new type of rotation. How does he rotate his players? He's somewhat going to be – Coach DeVries is going to be somewhat limited due to the injuries early in a substitution pattern. That's something we've always kind of harped on, pro and con, in the last few years about subs and the flow of the game. The benefit of that is you are going to get players that are used to playing with each other, and that flow and getting to know each other adds to both offense and defensive continuity. Sometimes when you mass sub or play too many guys, you lose that continuity, and I think that affects teams. I think the magic number is play 8, and then 9 and 10 get piecemealed in with foul trouble or whatever. You got to have 10 solid guys. Your thoughts on the rotation early and then how that might evolve come December when the players get healthy?
Yeah, I think that it's interesting because usually you have a big rotation early and then you shrink that down as you get closer, and Indiana's going to have the opposite situation going on. So it's very odd, but I think that certainly it makes sense early to be tight in your rotation. You got some good games or some big games early before those guys are going to be back. So you really have to jump right in to having a pretty tight rotation. I will say a guy like Dorn, you want to get him back as soon as possible. A guy who he's kind of lost in the shuffle as far as these names go. 15.2 points per game last year. Right. Elon, he shot 35% from 3, 36% as a freshman, 80% from the free throw line. He's a guy who can score. And, at 6'7", he offers some versatility as well as a guard wing. So he's a guy who's important, and they got to get him back, but he's kind of been lost in the shuffle because he hasn't played. But he's certainly going to be important to what they do. And I would believe he'd be a starter, when he comes back, but we'll see how that all shakes out. But yeah, I think you're really going to see a heavy dose of Connerway, Enright, and Wilkerson in the backcourt until then. Those will be your 3 guys. They may have to play a punishing amount of minutes early to make up for that. But that's just what you kind of have to do right now. Next guy steps up and fills in that role.
Yeah, I think obviously you'll see Sicily get a little more action.
Yeah.
I think he's earned that by his Puerto Rico play and what people have said in the past. But you're gonna that's gonna be something to watch going forward, especially in those early games, as you mentioned.
Probably
a big game against Marquette early that you go try to win. That's good for your resume. You got Kansas State before Thanksgiving at home. You want to win those games, and it would be nice to be at a full complement, but as a coach, you got to figure out a way to win when you don't have your full complement of players.
Yeah, and I would say coach too. I think that will allow them to test out that two big lineup more early to give those guards some rest and move DeVries or Sicily to the 3 and play it out that way. To get rotate one of the guards out a little bit and keep them all a little bit fresh and maybe go with that two big lineup, but. We'll see how they approach it. I mean, certainly it's not an ideal situation to start the season with two guards and one of your top wings out. But they'll manage it. They'll figure out a way to get through it.
The other thing to think about for tomorrow's game is that he said there will probably be limited sets in the 2 exhibition games. This one in October, I think 26th, Sunday against Baylor. That they're going to rely mostly on their motion and their concepts and their cutting and maybe some ball screens and that, but they don't want to put a lot on tape too early.
Yeah.
And then they'll add stuff. He did say the offense and defense is in, except for a few things defensively, and then obviously as the season goes on, they will add things per the scouting reports that they think can add an advantage both offensively and defensively. But when we're watching tomorrow, you're going to just see a lot of what their concepts are in offense as opposed to a coach calling specific things. And we know from watching his teams that he has a lot of sets that he can run to get a Wilkerson, to get a DeVries, to get certain people the ball in certain places with the opportunity to score. So watch tomorrow is more of a skill and how things flow together and just getting the idea of the offense and defense. The particulars will start coming in November when the games start.
Yeah, it'll be basic. And he said the defense is pretty much the defense, but offensively, they're going to basically just run their basic motion offense and hold out some stuff and be pretty, vanilla is what I would say. But there are concepts in there that they'll run stuff that you'll look at, oh, that was great. But it's just it's the concept of the offense and the rules within the offense and playing off of the rules within the offense as opposed to specific plays being called and sets being run. And he said defensively, they had a couple things they were trying to clean up in very specific situations. So I'd imagine like end of game situations, side out of bounds, like that kind of stuff. He said, really all that's left, everything's installed. We've just got to like clean some things up on those. And that's usually one of the last things to get worked out before the season starts, because you want to get the basic general idea first before you get down to that stuff.
So let's end our chalk talk here tonight with a couple questions. What we're going to watch for tomorrow, and then what player. I'm going tomorrow. I'm just going to watch for what he said he wanted was unselfish basketball. No matter what you run, do you make the extra pass? Do you push the ball? I'm going to look for the pace. I think there's two kinds of pace. There's up and down fast break scoring, then there's pace within the offense. How fast do you move? Do you move people? Those types of things. I am a defensive-minded coach, but I'm really excited about seeing some offense that I like after struggling for about 8 years. So I'm going to watch for that tomorrow. What are you going to watch for when you tune in to the game?
Just chemistry. I want to see some chemistry between the players. How quickly do they interchange off screens? Defensively, are they talking? Are they, and I expect that it's a very veteran team. So, they may be new to Indiana, but they're not new to college basketball. They
have experience.
Yeah. And so I expect that to be a pretty easy transition compared to a bunch of guys who didn't play in college transferring in and having to basically start over. I feel like these guys have a ton of experience. And so I think that will be better than you would expect. But questions, where are the gaps? Where are the plays where they didn't read where the other guy was going to be and let the guy split the lane and get a layup? Where was the spot where they didn't step out on a screen and somebody hit a three because they were expecting somebody else to do it? Offensively, how well do they read and know each other, where they're going to cut, where they're going to be, how soft to throw the pass, how soft or hard to throw the pass, where to throw the lob, where the guy likes it. Those kinds of things, where they get the 3-point shooter, where is he catching the ball? Do they have it in the pocket he likes? That kind of stuff's going to be interesting because, again, it's a game offensively. It's not going to tell you much as far as what they run and all that. I'm looking to see the interchange between the players, because if that's there, everything else is going to be easy to build. Do they look like a group of guys who have never stepped on the floor together? That's going to be tough. So that may take a little bit longer. So yeah, what's the learning curve there is what I'm really interested in.
I think to go back to defense, I'm going to kind of look at what the emphasis is. Like, how do you close out? Are you forcing the ball middle? Are you forcing the ball side? Are you trying to deny and get steals? What kind of ball screen coverage? We have a new coach and a new system, and all of those things are going to be discussed and talked about. We'll see what those base philosophies are, and then, as I said, when the scouting report comes, they may change up some of those coverages on defense or some of those sets on offense.
It'll be matchup dependent
November
too.
And December. Yeah, matchup dependent. But I'm just excited about Coach DeVries and his past and what he's done in this program, and just to identify his basic philosophies. I'm going to see how much I can identify in the first game.
Yeah, one other thing to watch tomorrow defensively is how many guys are aggressively guarding the ball on the perimeter. Is it just Connerway, or are these other guys also being aggressive on the perimeter? Connerway looked in Puerto Rico like he was physically picking the guy up at half court and then being right there an inch away from him. The other guys, are they doing that too? Is that the philosophy, or is that just the way he plays? And as DeVries mentioned about Connerway being, his best pure driver, are there other guys who have improved on that? And, because again, looking at the team as you go in, maybe Enright a little bit can get in there, but I mean, Wilkerson probably can if somebody runs out at a 3 too fast. So are there other guys who are going to get in and mix it up in the paint from the guard spots and guard and wing spots? That'll be worth looking at too. And I think the defensive thing is going to be very important. Is it just Connerway out there on an island, or are the other guys doing the same thing?
Which leads me to the player that I'm going to focus on the most, and it's really kind of two players, but I want to see that ball pressure, Ryan. I want to see those dogs get up in someone's grill and make it hell on to get into the offense, and that's Connerway and Enright. And I'm really excited to see how much Enright's going to piss off opponents. Like, he's just that guy that we haven't had. Some of the Michigan State teams, the Purdue teams have had that guy that Chris Kramer.
Iowa.
Iowa. I think we got one in Connor Enright, right? And I want it to start tomorrow night. I mean – it's an exhibition. It's not going on your record, but I don't want anyone love ball pressure as a coach and get in their grill.
I don't want anyone from Marian taking a swing at Connor Enright, but I want them to want to.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So which player are you going to focus on tomorrow? We talked about what we're going to watch for team-wise. Is there a player that you really want to focus on?
It's Connerway. I want to see what he does on both ends of the floor and how that
point guard's so important.
Yeah, and I think it would be him and Reed Bailey. I want to see what Reed Bailey's game is like with other players around him like this, because he did a great job last year. But what is it like, when he was at Davidson last year, by the way? But he did, and he was the man at Davidson. So what's it like for him as a different kind of big man now with a bunch of good players around him? Does he retreat a little bit, or does he embrace that and use his skills to make those guys better?
So there you have it. Tune in if you can. If you can't find it on Big Ten Plus, or you don't have Big Ten Plus, just want to listen to our recap. We will be on. Some version of us will be on tomorrow immediately. Well, within 5 minutes or so after the end of the game, bringing you our regular post game analysis. But coming up in segment 3, we're going to go over Marian and kind of what to expect from their vantage point. And I'm not sure we have questions from anyone, so we might wrap it up. But stick with us here on the Assembly Call.
This is Nick Zeisloft. I never miss an open three, and I never miss an episode of the Assembly Call.
Welcome back to Assembly Call. You're here with myself, the coach, Brian Tonsoni, and Ryan Phillips, as we are talking a lot of football and a lot of basketball tonight, as we're excited about both sports meshing together, hopefully having we know football's having success, and we wish the basketball team to have success as well. But tomorrow night, 7:30 at Assembly Hall, the Marian Knights, coached by Pat Knight, son of former coach Bob Knight, will be in Assembly Hall playing our Indiana Hoosiers in Game 1 of the Coach DeVries era. And a little bit about Marian. Last year, Indiana won 106-64 in an exhibition. It's the fourth straight year that Indiana has played the Marian Knights. Marian finished 11-17 last year. There are some starters back. Dylan Moles, a 6'3 guard, scored 12 points last year. Aiden Franks, a 6'3 sophomore guard. Luke Carroll, 6'6 redshirt junior. Not a lot of scoring from them. The two guys that scored against Indiana did graduate. Off the bench, 6'8 sophomore Josiah Gustin is back, and Noah Lovan, 6'3 sophomore. They both scored 9 and 8 points off the bench last year. And then a newcomer of note, Luke Lindemann, 6'6 from Bloomington North, comes home to play back in Bloomington. Son of Todd Lindemann will be playing for the Marian Knights. Ryan, what does Indiana get from playing this game, or anything you want to add about the roster there? How important is tomorrow night?
First of all, it's great for Luke Lindemann to get to come back and play at Assembly Hall. Probably really looking forward to that, and good luck to him. But I think you have to think of these exhibitions as a practice, and it's a game situation. It's all of that, but this is teams working things out. Even against Baylor, when they play Baylor, that's going to be a much more high level thing, and they're going to be competitive and maybe want to win it, but it doesn't matter. The results don't matter. What matters is, I would say, focus, not that they're going to lose to Marian, knock on wood, but it's more about process than results. And so it's about working through things. And like I said, building that chemistry, getting things down and running your offense and getting used to making that second nature. And the thing is, I think that people forget that practice against your teammates gets really old. And practicing and running sets against guys who know the sets and know what's coming is really, really a drag. And so getting out there against new people, getting to do that, getting to all be on the same page and not have to play against each other against a team that has no idea what they're in for. Aside from maybe scouting some West Virginia and Drake film, that's going to be great for these guys to do. And it'll be great when they do it against Baylor too. But I wouldn't, don't be alarmed if they don't win by 60. It's more of a practice scenario. It's trying to work things out and get these guys used to running these things against other people who are trying to stop it desperately. And then I would say the same thing for the Baylor exhibition is it's about what happens on the court, not necessarily how many points did this guy score? How many rebounds did this guy get? Don't focus on that. Focus on watching what the team does. I think that's the most important thing to come out of these. And then once the games start for real, then you can start worrying about all that other stuff. But these are glorified practices that serve a very strong purpose, and that's to get these guys playing against people that aren't their teammates.
Yeah, I'm not comment on that. I will say, anyone has a question, throw it in the chat. We'll try to answer a few here before we sign off. You want to get stuff on tape. Tape is such a great learning tool in the game of basketball, probably in most sports. And you want to get things on tape against people, as you said, that aren't familiar, cheating the play, cheating the system, doing those things. And that's what playing a Marian does. And then what I like about these newfound scrimmages against, Power 4 schools or whatever, now you get an exhibition that doesn't count against your record against talent that is a little bit higher, obviously, than Marian's talent. And then you get that on tape as well, as Indiana played Tennessee last year. And I think that then ramps it up for that first game, Alabama A&M, and then you go to Chicago and play Marquette. It is all about teaching and learning. And Indiana joins Baylor, Memphis, Miami, UCF, West Virginia, and Xavier as the only high major programs to return 0 points from the 24-25 roster. And so it takes on even more importance, Ryan, when you have everyone brand new. And I would also tell our listeners, like, that doesn't mean that Indiana's not going to be competitive. We've seen it before. And there are other teams that only return 2 or 3. You know, Illinois goes through a lot of people all the time. It's all about the coach and the system and the buy-in from the players. And I think this roster is going to be really, really fun and enjoyable to see on the court, and I think that starts tomorrow. There was a quick question I want to answer here. Russell said, how much will a loss to Kentucky and Louisville hurt their net ranking? Well, let's not lose to them, and then it will help our
number
net
one,
ranking.
Russell. Let's back off of that.
Yeah, back one. Those are games that you win, they're really bonus. You lose, and it actually kind of helps because it builds your strength of schedule. Right now, it depends on how you lose. Right, if it's a competitive
you
game,
lose close, it's
that
fine.
doesn't hurt. You lose close, it's not ideal, but it's not the end of the world. Losing to a Milwaukee or something like that hurts a lot more than losing to those teams. So
one comment
we appreciate that question. Yeah.
One comment we got, Coach Doug Hines. How you doing, Doug?
Yep.
Said just a comment, maybe Amir, I sense a new energy with you guys starting the year. I feel the same way. I think we all feel a new energy. And I think that part of that's coaching change. Part of that's a roster change. You know, we don't know what to expect, but the unknown is kind of exciting. I think the coaching change is to a style of basketball that we all like and appreciate and see being successful in college basketball right now. And frankly, in the NBA, a sort of offensive shooting driven, system that has kind of been the norm in college basketball for about 8 years. And we've had 2 systems in a row that didn't really emphasize that. And so seeing that switch gets us excited. Now, if it doesn't work, we won't be as excited as we are now. I mean, we're going to be honest about what we see, but all the signs point to Indiana sort of joining modern college basketball with this hire, with the players they've brought in, the philosophy that they are clearly pursuing. That's why we feel, I think, energized by it. And also, we're pretty energized today because Coach Sig signed an extension. So, it just goes along.
Doug, I think it's an excellent point, and I think you don't sense it. I think you really see it. When you struggle as a fan, which is what we are with programs. I felt this way 2 years ago with football. I was just telling my wife that I think I went to 2 games in 23. I think I went to 3 games, season ticket holder. I gave my tickets to my son and was looking for ways to stay home and do things around the house because the program under Coach Allen had just worn me down. Plus 28 years of that, or how many ever years since 1985 I've been going to football.
I was going to say, it's been a lot longer than that, Coach.
35 years. But and then it got rejuvenated. Winning helps, and I know that's kind of a bandwagon. You're more excited when they win, but I think there's some truth to that too. The other thing that I would say, Doug, to your excellent point, is I really enjoy the way Coach communicates and understands that the fans are a part of this as well. He, going to the Kirkwood and just seeing him, people shouting out to him, and I'm sure Coach Woodson did some of that as well. But there's a different vibe. But he's talking basketball. He's welcoming in people to talk basketball, and I think he really wants this to be a complete program, and your fan base is part of that. And he's not just the coach and letting the fans feel whatever they want. And he is, just absorbing himself into the Bloomington area and other things. And it has to happen on the basketball court, right? It has to be translate to wins and losses. But I just feel a different vibe. And it is energizing to be able to talk about something that you're excited about.
Coach, I got a question.
Yeah.
Tomorrow officially kicks off season 15 of the Assembly Call. You've been full-time with us how many years now?
10 years, 17, I think.
Wow. That's great.
17
seasons.
was the first year. I was behind the scenes in 16 as the monitor thing.
Amazing. That's crazy. Yeah, 15 years, man. We all are a lot older than when we started and feel even older given what we've gone through as fans. But yeah, I was just curious about that. I knew I didn't remember the year you came on because you were behind the scenes for a while, and then we obviously brought you in, started having you on shows.
Yep, 17. I think it was 17 or 18. Maybe I was a guest in 16, 17, and then joined full time 17, 18. I'm not sure, but I know because Jared wrote that book or had that book about
the 16
better than advertised about the 16 year. And I was behind the scenes. So
our last great year.
Yeah. And looking forward to it to getting back. Any final thoughts? Football, basketball, heading into tomorrow.
Yeah, I think just enjoy it. Like seriously enjoy it. You're going to get 2 exhibitions. You're going to have the homecoming / spittoon game on Saturday. Enjoy that. Really take advantage of this moment in Indiana sports and pay attention to all of them because they're all doing great right now. I mean, for the most part, it seems like there's just so much success around the athletic department. So bask in it a little bit because it's not always like this, as Indiana fans well know. And let's get excited for the new season, season 1 for Coach DeVries and season 15 for us.
Absolutely. Just again, Doug led us into a good conversation. A lot to look forward to. Going to pack up the vehicle tomorrow night and head out early in the morning. Looking forward to tuning in tomorrow night and watching game 1. I think these guys, they may come from mid-major backgrounds, but I think they have a chip on their shoulder too. They have experience. They have a chip on their shoulder to prove that they belong. And let's see if they can get that done enough to get back into the tournament. But that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Assembly Call. If you want to see us do the show live, join us at assemblycall.com on Thursday nights or any night that we declare Assembly Call Radio, or join us post-game for every Indiana basketball game for a live broadcast of Assembly Call. Thanks to Bob Thompson for producing our music, and thanks to John Ringer of Rig Design for designing our logos, and thank you for listening. Until then, keep your elbows in and your eyes on the rim, and go Hoosiers. Here I come, this is done, Sony.
That's it. We're done. No more questions.
I don't like carrots.
Time has proven me right on virtually
nothing.
I hate it. They got problems.
Oh, that
Thank
that
you,
edit,
everyone, for tuning in.
Yeah, that edit for me was harsh. Oof.
Little extra there on the ending because
Thanks, producer Eddie, and congratulations to Eddie today. That's the banner moment.
Oh, thank you.
That is, yes.
No, it's good. I just tried to do a little something different there since I was a little late on the outro.
Oh, it was good. I just the changing what I said there is not fun.
You can blame Jared on that one.
I will for many things, including
the next time you see him.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody.
So, thanks, Ryan. Are you going to join tomorrow night?
I'm going to try and call in. I'll be at a wedding this weekend, so I'm going to try and call in, but we're going to be busy.
All right. Man, am I going to do a solo post-game show tomorrow?
I don't know. Let's see, you might be able to get Jared on. You might be able to get
Coach Moats.
Coach Moats for sure. Yeah.
Oh, there he just got into the chat there. Coach, you available tomorrow for a post-game show? A little late notice.
I got to hop off, guys.
All right, Ryan, we'll see you, bud.
Yeah.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. See you.